Hi and welcome to this stringing video about the refretting of this Gibson Les Paul Studio. What happened with this guitar was the owner decided to level the frets using one of these sanding blocks, which has a concave shape which matches the radius of the fretboard. In this case it's 12 inch radius. That's not the right way to level frets, because what tends to happen is that you take off too much at the edges. So you need to use a flat sanding surface to level the frets. So what we've got to do, because there isn't much left, is take these frets out, which I've started doing, and replace them with new frets. So the way this is done is to get an iron, soldering iron, which has got a bit with a groove cut in the top, and you put that onto the fret and heat it up until it gets warm enough so that the wood fibres around the fret become nice and warm and moist, and if there's any glue in there, which there is sometimes, that melts too. I don't think Gibson used glue in these frets. I haven't really found any glue residue on the first two. So all I really need to do is heat this up just to get the wood nice and warm, so it's less likely to splinter. One of the problems with doing this is when you pull the frets out, they can splinter the wood on either side of the slot, and that means you then have to spend some time filling in the holes with a mixture of rosewood or whatever the fretboard's made of and glue, and then sand that down, which can be quite time consuming, and I'm quite keen to avoid that. So what I'm going to do is heat this fret up, which can take a fair old time. You want to get it nice and warm, and then when that's done, get my pliers and let's start right at the edge of the fret, and that's it. That's got it going. Now you don't really want to waggle these from side to side at all, because that will create splinters. You just want to go along, and then it should just pop out, which it has done, and there's no real splintering there at all. So this is a special pair of pliers which are beveled so that they have a very sharp nip, but they can get underneath the frets. So that's how that's done. So I'm now going to go on and get the rest of the frets out, and then I'll prepare some new frets to install. Okay, so I've got all the frets in. I used a fretting hammer for this. I usually use a press, but these went in very easily, and also because this is a set neck guitar and you can't get to these ones at the top with a press, it was just easier to do it that way, and they all went in fine. And I've just started nipping off the ends with this set of pliers, again like the ones that we use to take the frets out. These have a very flat edge, so you can get right up close to the fretboard and get those off. So when I've got these fret ends off, I'm going to get them absolutely level with the edge of the fretboard, or the side of the neck rather, and then I'll do a bit of beveling so that they've got an angle going upwards like that, and then I'll check the level of the frets. I have had a look at them already and they are pretty level, but I will fret level this because I want to make sure that it's as good as it possibly can be. So I'm not relying on the fact that I leveled the fretboard before I put the frets in. I'm actually going to level the frets again, and probably taking off a very small amount, unless we can find one that's too high or too low, which I don't think is the case, and then I'll re-crown them, and that's the job done. So the next thing after I've got the ends done will be to flatten the edges, and I'll be back when I've done that. What I'm doing here is just beveling just cutting down the edges of the frets so they're level with the edge of the fretboard. And I've got this tool for doing that, which I made, which is a piece of beech with some PTFE on the bottom, which is very smooth, it's not going to damage the frets, and a narrow diamond grit file which sits in a groove in the tool, and it's at a right angle, so when you run it along the side, it's just going to take the frets down to the edge, and you can see and you can actually hear when it's cutting the frets. Down this end there's nothing, and this end you can feel the vibration. There's just a little bit more to go, and actually you can see on the side, once it's level, it will take a little bit of varnish off usually, although sometimes you can avoid that. So I'm just going to carry on doing this until we get these completely level, and then I'll put the bevel, angled bevel on them as well. Okay, so the frets are now in, the ends have been trimmed and they've been rounded. I've done the fret leveling. This is essentially finished now. The only thing I've yet to do is just condition the fretboard, because putting the masking tape on for the fret leveling does take a little bit of moisture out of it, and it hasn't been done as well since I used the leveling block, the radius block on the board. So just want to bring that back up to a nice dark grainy look. But apart from that, it's finished. The other job on this guitar was putting some copper shielding in the control cavity. That's already been done. So I'm just waiting now for a Graphtec nut to be delivered to me, and when I get that, I'll put that in, put the strings on this and set it up, and it'll be ready to go. So really pleased with the way that's worked out. Thanks a lot. Take care.